closely for the past year and a half. I believe until recently, the Bawku matter, or Bawku has been a very peaceful area, but rather unfortunately, for the past week, we have had some serious. Sorry for the noise. What was that? Why are there some people now coming in when we have already started and then disrupting? Up and down and talking to them, both sides, the Kusasi, Mamprisi, B-sides, Moshis, whoever is in that particular enclave, I am constantly in touch. And that obviously has yielded some benefit, and the place has been relatively quiet. But because of the recent clashes, government yesterday released a press statement that declared a curfew in the Bawku area due to the substantial threat to public safety and security. Government is guided by its responsibility to protect lives and property, and above all, to enforce law and order to restore normalcy as quickly as possible. We have taken notice of the interpretations, or should I say misinterpretations, that are being given by the various factions in this matter, that sometimes seeks to inflame passions and designed to escalate the situation. In a way, I sense some level of mistrust that has crept in since last week, but I want to assure all sides that the trust you have had in myself, especially as your minister responsible for chieftaincy matters and with the government, must be maintained. Government, through my ministry and that of my colleagues and institutions, will keep listening to you and act with impartiality and in a fair manner to build and maintain the peace in Bawku and its environs, as well as any other part of the country. I will employ all sides to stop the conspiracy theories going around, the blame games, and keep calm to allow government to deal with the security and the chieftaincy issues thereof. No one should play politics with this sensitive matter. I will continue to engage my colleagues in the political arena from all sides to work with government to resolve the current problems and to work towards lasting peace in the area. I strongly call on the traditional leaders too, from both sides, to refrain from any acts that would escalate the situation. I wish to call on all sides to lay down their arms and cease firing at each other. In this regard, I wish to reiterate our press release yesterday, and I quote, "Government is committed to taking all necessary measures to ensure the safety and security of the people of Bawku and its environs. Security agencies have been directed to enforce strictly the curfew and maintain law and order. Residents are, therefore, urged to comply with the directive and to cooperate fully with the security agencies to restore peace and normalcy in the area." I end my quotation of the press release yesterday. To my brothers and sisters in Bawku area, and that's why I'm wearing the hat. Normally I don't, but today I decided to do that. I'm addressing you, my brothers and sisters in the Bawku area, and wherever you find yourself, please reach out to your neighbor. Bridge the divide that separates you and build a future where peace reigns supreme. You have lived together peacefully in the past. You have intermarried and produced children of parentage from all sides. I plead with you to take a step back from these seemingly provocative happenings and show exceptional love to yourselves. For you are one people, as we are all one people in this country, working hard to better our lives. I quote Martin Luther King Jr., a civil rights activist, who says, and I quote, "Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. It is possible to make a difference wherever you find yourself. Each one of us must be committed to the peace agenda. Peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at a goal." A quotation closed by Martin Luther King Jr. Finally, I wish to thank the Nairi, the overlord of the Mamprugu Kingdom, the Bawku Naba, Zogran Asigri Abugrago Azoka II, for their cooperation with me and the government so far. I wish also to thank the Asantehene, Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II, for his invaluable behind-the-scenes role in these last days. I wish also to thank the youth from both sides, whom I have been engaging over the past week, and continue to urge them to restrain themselves and avoid any provocative act that will jeopardize the efforts being made by all of us. On that note, I thank you very much, members of the press, for coming. And if there are anything that you want me to clarify within my means, I'll do that. So, over to you. Thank you.
Yes, so my name is
From?
Yes, so we want to know the state of affairs this morning, as we speak, what is the state of affairs in Bawku now, as we are getting some reports now that there are some clashes among some factions yesterday where about 8 people died. I don't know whether you are aware of that.
Thank you very much. I am aware of everything going on in Bawku right now. I've been speaking to them almost every hour. But nothing has happened overnight. You're talking about yesterday, I can understand. But this morning, nothing. No single gunshot, not even a catapult thrown at anybody. I can tell you that. And I'm glad the curfew is being adhered to. But not only the curfew, people are now realizing that government is on top of it, and the solution is being found very quickly. Thank you.
Honorable, can you please establish exactly how many lives were lost in the recent attacks? And really, was it prudent that this rival chief returned to Bawku under the circumstances? How did he even get into Bawku? And if you could clarify that as well. And there's also concerns exactly from the Bawku Naba, as you rightly said, and also you state that you've been in talks with them. What has been the extent of talks you've had with them? What is the role the Asantehene is playing to ensure that this conflict is resolved peacefully and amicably?
Thank you. The first question as to the number of deaths, record from our sources puts at 16. That's official. When conflicts start in some areas, it's difficult to sometimes pick it up until later people go in there. But officially 16. But it's one too many. So, indeed, that is the reason why the Security Council meeting was held yesterday, in which I was part, and the curfew was imposed. So, we need to arrest the situation very quickly. In terms of how the rival chief ended up in Bawku, I'll leave that to security agencies to answer that. It's unfortunate he did. It's something that we have to find answers to, and also to try and deal with it, because his very presence is creating the problems. And indeed, as you read from the statement yesterday, it's causing a lot of unrest and unease and tension. So let's, as I said, leave that to security agencies. But from the role of key personalities who are helping to resolve, indeed, you recall that the government has requested Otumfuo the Asantehene to take sole responsibility in terms of negotiating and discussing and bringing this whole thing to some amicable solution. And he's been doing that. It's not just because of this incident. I know he's called them severally to mention. I know he's in touch, and indeed, just recently, for the past 3 or 4 days, we have been talking to him, and he's talking to them, and indeed, that is going down well, and I'm glad. That's why I thank him for it. So he's on top of it, and hopefully, as I said, people would be calm, and what government has to do, we take all measures to do.
With this event going on, are there measures in place to ensure that they are not disenfranchised with about a month to the elections? And then also, the issue about the chiefs involved in this spectacle, are they willing to broker peace? Will this conflict ever end? Yeah, and then finally...
hopefully finally from Joy FM.
Hopefully finally... there's also this issue about conflict simmering between the Bisankas and the Kusasis. The Bisas want to install a permanent chief over the Kusiga, the Kunibuga, the other ethnic groups there. How are you tackling this simmering tension over the
First one, I'm not too sure about this, whether the people have not been registered. Are you sure about this?
Yes.
You verified from the EC and they have not been registered?
Last registration, they weren't registered.
That's the last before 2020, you mean?
No. I mean this year.
But that was not registration, it was
Yes, they weren't allowed.
limited, yes.
It also didn't give others, especially those who just turned 18, opportunity to register.
Well, I guess now that you've raised it, I also will try and raise it at the appropriate quarters for EC to do that. Hopefully that nobody gets disenfranchised. It's important. I'm not responsible for registration, so I couldn't say, but I obviously understand the point that if the situation security-wise is settling, how do we do that? But that's something I think the appropriate agencies will discuss and get people registered and so that they can exercise their vote. The other point about the chiefs, how cooperative they are very cooperative. I talk to not just the overlords. I go as deep down as I can. Because I know traditionally decisions are not made by one person, and so I tend to find out a lot more. So when I'm talking to the main person, the overlords, I know exactly what kind of conversation we have. And they are very cooperative. Some of them takes a while to come around, but in a conflict situation, that's what you expect. Not everybody thinks the same as you do, but it's patience. In the traditional way of resolving matters is patience. The only difficulty and I have is the violence nature. That obviously disrupts the discussion going on. That's why I also thank the youth, because they've held back most of them for a long time. But I also ask them, sometimes provocation makes them react. So I'm urging them not to be provoked. In tree, sometimes we say, Obi huru wa. Enye bibia na edi akire obi huru keke onye ohwe ehun bia on torture there, but he's making gestures that is sometimes a bit annoying. But you have to be very restraining. And that's why I kept on telling them to restrain. But those who are also doing the provocation, we know them and we are reaching out to them and with a firm hand. The chiefs are cooperative, and that's why I said sometimes they are forced to say something. I noticed the Kusasis did a press conference, right? But we've heard them back for a long time, since Friday. And they know we are on top of the job. But I think yesterday they wanted to voice out something. I took notice of that, but I've reached out to them to calm down. No more talking, no more discussion on this matter, and it will be resolved. First of all is the law and order. Secondly is to try and reach an amicable situation. That what is the situation? It's not anything that we're going to... It's a situation that we know. And it's been settled in a way, but I don't think people, some of them understand. But we'll get there. The last one is the other tribal groups, BSS, and yes, I know. I think about 3 or 4 days, there was an engagement between the BSS and the Kusasis. We've reached out to all of them. So that's, if you remember, I talked about not just both sides, but other sides, and even other people outside the environment, all over the country. So we are addressing all of them. The security agencies are on top of the job. And yesterday, as I said, it was quiet. It was quiet, not even a catapult. I checked this morning.
Sorry, the last question.
Let's have the bite of it.
So my name is Maxwell from Monia, CPNF. There is a statement from the Traditional Council accusing the Vice President of siding with the armed forces. Knew the clash, what we saw yesterday, the last time. And then we also heard the former president, that is the presidential candidate for NDC, accusing NPP that anytime you're in government, there is an issue in the northern region. As a sector minister, how do you react to this?
Yes, I heard it wasn't from the Kuzak, from one of the traditional leaders. So it wasn't the Kuzak. It was Kuzak traditional area, according to them. He was speaking on their behalf, but not the youth. This is a divisional chief, and I've reached out to him. And that's why I use the word, we should stop the blame game. There's a too much blame game, and I also use some words, if you remember, a bit of mistrust. So there's a bit of mistrust around, and I know that in a conflict zone, not everybody believes you. But they should not, the conspiracy theories you have heard a lot. So I'm asking them to restrain themselves and not to conjecture and speculate, and that doesn't help security to deal with matters. So we are aware of that, and I'm talking to them. And I don't want to go into the details of what the leader of the NDC has said. That's why I call on engaging all the political parties, and indeed I'm talking to them. I don't want to name names, but I've reached out to the other side of the political divide, who are also very much in the area and also aware of the situation. It's not a case that started today. It's been an ongoing thing for a while. And so we are talking. The key thing is to talk and then get the security to deal with the emergency situation now, and then get the peace back in the area. And indeed, until about maybe some few years, there was relatively peace in the Bawku enclave. The issues have been dealt with. So, as I said, blame game should stop. The conspiracy theory should stop. And government is in firm control, and that's why yesterday we released a press statement. All measures will be taken to bring the place under a peaceful atmosphere. Thank you.
Yesterday, the MP for Tibila, he mentioned that the imposition of the curfew should be a short-term measure and not a long-term one. How long do you intend to impose this curfew for? And there are even questions about government trying to use the curfew to restore the electoral process.
To
to distort the electoral process in Bawku.
To restore? Distort
the electoral process in Bawku, which historically has been an NEC, stronghold. And then the politicking that people are doing with the vice president, the fact that this chief has been allowed into Bawku, to create confusion because the vice president is afraid that the northeast region, which is a strategy for the NPP to capture that region, because it is a Mamprisi-dominated area. If the government does not allow this chief to come into Bawku, it would affect votes for the NPP in northeast. And that's some of the politics that I've heard on this issue. And then in the Greater Accra region, just to digress a bit, something is also brewing. Yesterday there was a statement from King Taki Adama, who is claiming to be the legitimate government. If we can speak to that also.
Sorry, what's the Greater Accra got to do with the Bawku one?
Yes, I asked for this.
Oh, you want to lump that in? Yeah. I refuse to answer. I refuse to be drawn into Greater Accra one now. If you come back on Greater Accra, we'll talk about that. Let me focus on what's in front of me. Your question is important, but it's loaded with a lot of conjectures and speculation. Politically, I don't know who benefits. Nobody does. Nobody does. So I don't know how somebody can think that the curfew is designed to distort. I don't know. If there's a curfew, it affects everybody. Both NDC, MPP, PCC. Matters the better for all of us. We're in an election year. People can go about their business of campaigning and the peaceful nature go and go. In terms of how long, I couldn't tell you. It depends on the day-to-day happenings on the ground, and we're on top of that. But hopefully it shouldn't be long. Hopefully. Shouldn't be go. We've got an election just about 40 days away, and to keep a curfew to that extent may not be the ideal. You understand? So that's the question. Then the second question was on what? Speculation again. On the Northeast politics. It's speculation, so I won't answer that.
To what has happened right now, believed to be the entrance of this chief into the area. What is accounting for the delay?
Delay in what?
In removing him from there. While at that as well, what has happened to the arrest warrant appeal by the Attorney General? And finally, why has it been so long to solve the Bawku conflict?
The first question was on government proactiveness, right?
Yes.
You remember in my opening statement, I said I've been on top of what's happening in Bawku for a long time. And the situation of the travel of the rival chief to Bawku is not in my purview. And I said that's something the security agencies may respond appropriately. But be as it may, he's there. And you ask the question, what are we doing? Unfortunately, that security matter I can't disclose on air to you now. But as I said in my press statement, I'm talking to all interested parties. I don't want to name names, but I've reached out to a lot of people in the situation on the ground. We hope we can resolve it amicably very soon. How soon, as I said, now the curfew has come in. It depends on the day-to-day operations that we conduct and also our role behind the scenes to convince everybody. So that's what I would say. In terms of the arrest warrant, and I would defer that to the Attorney General. What I know is that the case was brought up for an appeal, and the judge has ruled that the arrest warrant was not in good, whatever, I don't know the legal terminology, but basically the appeal succeeded. And so, but if I am right in my understanding, it's not to do with whether he's a chief or not. It should do with his personality, whether he can travel anywhere or the other one. I mean, that's what the legal people tell me. I may be wrong, but so the judge obviously did his job. As to whether there was a rearrest warrant or not, I don't think that has happened. And that's why I said maybe AG can explain a little further what to do. But for me, as a Minister for Chieftaincy, I don't go into all details like that. My job is to try and reach out to the personalities who are within the Chieftaincy leadership and to try and say, look, this one will not help us. If there's any case, please get out of the place if you can. So we're doing that. So that's why I say I'm reaching out to as many people as I can, and hopefully we can resolve it and amicably. All government has done what?
What could the state have done to prevent?
Speculation again, speculation. What could we have done? What we have been doing is talking. And we have been talking. I was taken aback when I found out he's in Bawku. I mean, but how do you know this? I don't live there. So we just keep talking. So as to how it happened, I reserve my comment for that. Okay? But we are on top of it. The case should resolve as much as early as we can. I'm done. Sorry? Oh, now so the areas now, but corner church, more interpreters. And the man can say, I have managed to answer some of them, but these are sensitive matters that I don't want to go into too much details. Thank you.
Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Stephen Asamoah Boateng, addressing the press there regarding matters in Bawku. This follows renewed clashes after the return of a chief whom is deemed to have been illegitimately ensconced in the area. Well, there was a court warrant on him subsequently lifted, and his return to the area seems or appears to have escalated tensions in the area, resulting in violence. According to the sector minister, the official death toll, according to records of the ministry, stands at 16, despite reports in the media that point to the figure 20. We'll bring you more on this in our subsequent bulletins, but the minister has called for calm and restraint amongst the various feuding factions and also amongst the political parties, asking them to refrain from politicizing the matter. My name is Asamoah Boateng. Stay with us here on Channel 1 TV. We will bring you updates on this and more.